I don't think it works. It only works that way on one end. You can pretend you're behind forever. You can pretend you're behind forever if you want, as long as your self-belief and self-worth and identity allows you to do it. I would rather be there. I would rather pretend I'm behind forever.
But you know what else feels good is progress. And progress only comes from, ironically, paradoxically, going outside your comfort zone, which doesn't feel good. You feel behind. You feel inadequate. And then you push past that so that you can actually feel adequate. So it's almost like you have to feel inadequate and crappy on the micro day to day in order to feel adequate and great long term.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1770, we're going to hit you with a quick one, 10 to 12 minutes. Usually we say that, and it ends up being 3 hours long, but we're going to try to make it a short one today. Feeling behind isn't always a bad thing. So I go to the gym pretty much at the same time every day, 7:45 to 8 a.m., and there's a gentleman who works behind the counter. Shout out to Mason. And I remember his name by Mason Jar. So when I forget his name, I just think Mason Jar, Mason. Cool. I think that's like, there's some hack that's like mnemonics or something. I don't know. It's a way to help you remember people's names. I'm not good with names. Him and I kind of have a conversation every time I go in. He'll be like, hey man, he's super positive kid. And I could say that because I'm older than him. And him and I were talking today. And I asked him last week, I said, how old are you? He's got, I'm 20. And I was like, you're 20? You have so much time. You have so much time. 20? Good for you. So we were talking today, and we were talking about the 10-pound and 10-week challenge and why we were doing it. And he knows about the podcast. And if he's listening, shout out. You're good. You're a great human. I told you that today. And he said, you're just dieting to diet? And I said, well, what I've really started to understand is after COVID, I never really got it back. I never really got back into the shape that I had before COVID, and I understand that I'm not going to do it unless I create a lot of necessity and accountability. Because I said I'm suffering pretty bad at this point. And I told him, I said I'm eating 1,400 calories, and he's like, why? And I explained it. And he said, yeah, I feel similar. I don't know, I've kind of lost it. I work at a gym, but I don't really work out that much, not as much as I need to. And we were having a really cool conversation. And I said, you have to understand, I didn't say that, but I think it was something along the lines of, well, sometimes it feels really good to be behind because it lights a fire under your butt. Because he said, I feel behind. Sometimes I feel behind. And I said, it's easy for me to say that you're not because I'm a decade and a half further along in this journey, but it really depends on what you do with it. If you feel behind and that lights a fire under your butt, that's probably a good thing, honestly. Maybe going back to last episode, posing a question as a jump-off point, would you rather feel behind or would you rather feel ahead? When maybe neither of those are actually truthful, but I would say statistically, it's usually you're probably statistically more behind than you are ahead, depending on what you're doing. But I would rather feel behind than feel ahead. If you feel behind, you're going to keep your foot on the gas. If you feel ahead, you're going to take your foot off the gas. Go ahead now. Use your words. Say your words. Say something with them.
One of the toughest topics ever, because I always used to say this, and I think maybe it will land after the monologue you just gave, which is you can either feel good or get better. Never both. I'm playful with it.
Yeah.
Getting better feels good, but not really. It only feels good after. So I've been doing mobility every day for for 2024. And in 2023, I struggled. I was inconsistent. I could not get on the yoga mat. While I'm on the yoga mat, it doesn't feel good. Nothing about it is fun. Nothing about it is enjoyable. I don't really like it. I never really have, to be completely honest. I mean, occasionally the ROMWAD videos we use are nice, but really, it kind of sucks. I don't really like it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd much rather be doing other things. I do like it when I listen to a specific book that's really intriguing or something like that, but for the most part, it just sucks. So let's say 90% of the time, mobility sucks. Fair. It feels like I'm behind while I'm on the mat, and I feel like I'm not very flexible. Seriously. I've been doing it for half a year, and I still don't feel that flexible on the yoga mat. And the reason why is I'm stretching, literally and metaphorically, a little bit past my current abilities. I've got these long giraffe legs, so I try to touch my toes, and it's not easy for me. I can do it, but it's not easy for me. If I were to teleport back to the first day of the year, January 1st, 2024, I guarantee you I would feel way ahead. But I don't.
You mean with your current
In comparison, yes. Right now, if I were to watch a video of me stretching,
right.
I would feel so far ahead. But on the day-to-day, I don't feel ahead at all. I'm actually, so my left is definitely tighter than my right. I have trouble holding my toes on my left quite a bit still. My right is kind of good. And again, good is in quotes. Like, I'm not super, 10 minutes a day is only going to do so much. Let's be real. Right. I would feel ahead if I looked back 6 months, but on the day-to-day, I never feel ahead. And I do believe that's the way success works in all things. After I get off the yoga mat, and let's say I go to the gym that night, there are things I notice where it's like, oh yeah, my shoulder feels really good. I was doing bench press the other day, and I had that moment of, this used to hurt. This used to hurt a lot. I've been doing the bands a lot. And so that moment feels like I'm ahead. But the next day on the yoga mat, I go right back to feeling like, why the hell can't I touch my toes easily when I've been doing this for 6 goddamn months? I think that's the way life works. When you feel good, you are most likely not outside your comfort zone. Being in your comfort zone feels good. That's the problem. But you know what else feels good is progress. And progress only comes from, ironically, paradoxically, going outside your comfort zone, which doesn't feel good. You feel behind. You feel inadequate. And then you push past that so that you can actually feel adequate. So it's almost like you have to feel inadequate and crappy on the micro day to day in order to feel adequate and great long term.
I think I agree, but I just understand how challenging that is for people. Because again, the collective you don't really want to be miserable the entire time you're chasing your goals. And that's why I'm so big now on I don't care what your goals are, I care what process you're willing to do. That is my new frame. I don't care what your goals are. I don't care. Because the goals don't matter unless you're willing to do the process long enough. That has been my new frame for stuff. Next Level Nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there. Again, if you told me 7 years ago what it was going to take to get here, I would have had a higher level of awareness of whether or not I actually wanted to do it. Now, did you know? I think obviously you knew better than I. Did you know exactly? No, right? I don't think anybody really knows exactly. But that's the challenge of it. That's the really challenging piece of it, is maybe you can just try to play like you're behind. I'm sure we've all seen a video of someone who's like winning the race, and then they start celebrating early, and then they get passed by someone, and they end up going from first place to second place. That sucks.
I've been there, metaphorically.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, in business, you and I do that on the reg.
Yeah, that's not great. But Alan and I had a conversation today. We said, we just got to play like we're losing. Play like we're losing. But also, I understand, and this is my perspective, I understand how constricting that can feel. It does feel constricting when you're playing like you're losing at times. And maybe that's a me thing. I don't know. Maybe that's just unique to me. But I do agree. I think that I know a lot of people who are always playing like they're winning, but they're not really winning.
Yeah.
They're playing like they're ahead, and they are ahead that day, But
Yeah.
then they wake up the next day and you can't pretend you're ahead again. You can only do that for so long. It's like the people who Photoshop their pictures. Like eventually you're going to have to go out into public and people are going to see what you really look like. That's why I don't pretend I'm 6'5", because eventually someone's going to see me and be like, what happened? Like, oh yeah, no. I was in a hydraulic press and it like compressed my body and now I'm 5'5". It's like, eventually there you cross the line of, oh, I can't pretend what I'm pretending anymore. You can't. But I don't think it works. It only works that way on one end. You can pretend you're behind forever. You can pretend you're behind forever if you want, as long as your self-belief and self-worth and identity allows you to do it. I would rather be there. I would rather pretend I'm behind forever. So right now on the diet, I am behind. But even if I wasn't, I wouldn't be getting cheat meals and letting it go. I would say, cool, maybe you are ahead. Maybe statistically I'm more, I've lost more than 50% of the weight that I need to in 40% of the time. Awesome. Great. That doesn't mean I take it easy. I keep doing what I'm doing because that's the thing that has actually created the results, and that has created the opportunity for me to get to the destination, quote unquote, earlier. But it doesn't mean I take my foot off the gas. So that's kind of my perspective. You have 2 minutes to speak, and then we got to go because Alan has a call.
I think Kevin and I have done episodes similar to this for 7 years.
Yes.
And I think that's a good thing because this is one of the fundamentals.
Yes.
A great investor sacrifices short-term pleasure for long-term betterment, metaphorically and literally. I think everyone has to have the honest conversation with themselves of, would you rather feel good now or later? Because I had a mentor one time, he said, Alan, you feel really good on the beach, I feel really good at the bank. He said, let's switch. And I was like, yes, need to switch. And that was when I was broke. But now I feel better at the bank. And I don't feel nearly as good as I used to at the beach. And other people will say, well, what do you mean you're in such good shape? It almost doesn't matter what you think. I appreciate you and thank you for thinking that I'm in great shape. But I know someone who's in better shape than 99.9% of people I know, and she still disagrees that she should take it easy because she wants better. And so it all depends on the goal. So you have to decide within yourself, do you care more about the experience or the result? You really do have to decide that, because otherwise you're just going to beat yourself up on the other end of it. I've tried to be experience driven. I've tried to care more about my day-to-day experience and enjoying myself and stuff like that. I'm not fulfilled when I do that. I know I'm letting myself down. And so I was on a podcast earlier. Her name was Dr. Dee. She spent 25 years becoming a doctor. She's in the medical field. She's been Massachusetts, New York City, down in South Carolina. She's doing it. She's got it going on. It was an awesome interview. She's an achiever through and through. And when I talk to achievers, I can tell because they don't really care how much it sucks. It's almost irrelevant how much the process sucks. If you don't resonate with that, that's okay. But you have to face that is going to mean you're going to get less results than someone who doesn't care.
That's fair.
Like if person A and person B, I had 2 minutes, I know. If person A and person A cares about the experience of the day-to-day, and they don't care as much about results, they're always going to optimize for the best experience in the moment, which means they're not going to have as big of results later. Versus someone who cares more about results, they're going to sacrifice the experience in the moment, which I do regularly, but they're going to have bigger results. So own whichever one you are, be a good one. Shout out to Jerry Ann. She brought that to me, and I think that was an Abraham Lincoln quote or something. I don't know, but I love that quote. The key is to be honest with yourself.
I think that's a really good frame, results versus experience. Because at least that way you can decide, maybe I'm okay with, if I'm going for the experience of the day-to-day, I'm just going to say I'm ahead. I'm ahead of I'm not behind. If you care about the results, you're going to say you're behind. And I think that's a really good way. And then there's some mixture of that. Okay, we got to get you out of here. Make sure you subscribe if you have not yet on YouTube, on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We appreciate you so very much. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay self-aware. Next Level Nation.